Hey everyone, Julian here. Today I'm going to show you how to make a full Sewerslvt style ambient jungle track from scratch. I've got a template here. I'm going to show you how to do everything from scratch and really break it down so you can learn not just how to make the elements, but how to make the whole track. A lot of you guys have been requesting this one, and here it is. As usual, you can get this full track template, the entire track fully arranged, as well as all the samples, MIDI, and presets, as well as the project. It's all available at the top of the description on my website. Definitely go grab that. It's a really great way to support me, but it's going to be something that you could grab right now to really take your tracks to the next level. You know, just with this simple thing, it'll really help you. Thank you so much for the support, everybody. Enjoy supporting yourselves, and let's dive in. Alright, so what we got here is we're at 170 BPM. We have our full track arrangement. You can see it's just over 6 minutes here, and it starts up here with the bass line. Now, this bass line is being played across two different sounds. So for the actual bass, it's basically, we have these two chords. We're doing an F sharp minor, right? And then we have this B major, or B minor, excuse me. Right, so essentially the root note of the key we're in, which is F sharp minor, and then the fourth. We're bouncing up from these notes down here, just like in this case, a minor seventh, or the minor third there. You can also see if you look at this like that, see this kind of walks up. But we have that in the octave down, and then over here it goes up high a bit. And then this is the same bass line, just not as bouncy on this respace, which I'll talk about in a second. But for the actual bass sound, also over here, it's just one note, right? It's just F sharp. But what we're doing for this sound is this is like a classic 808, like just a modern hip hop 808 you could get out of any drum kit that you can find on like r/drum kits, or you know, any of that kind of thing. Just like I said, like literally straight from a hip hop sample pack, and then we're saturating it a bunch. So without, and then with. Obviously, to really get that fat, crunchy, you know, kind of modern Sewerslvt style sound, you're going to want to push that a little bit. And then for the respace, that's a pretty simple respace. You know, it's really just a saw wave with a bunch of unison, and then a low pass, which has some automation to kind of bring it in and out and build some tension. But really, it's about how this is arranged, like in the track. Like, you know, there's these parts where it's crazy and it's full energy, and that's when you want the 808. But here, when we want to be a bit more chill, you can see the 808 wouldn't really work as well compared to, and especially in the intro too. So that's why we have a few different ones. So then the next thing that we got here would be all of the pads. See, we've got 4 pads here, which all come together to create this big, huge, ambient, kind of like dreamy thing. So it starts with this first one, which is probably like the main pad. This is playing these kind of crazy chords, which are actually not as complicated as they might look. Basically, it's F sharp minor, C sharp minor, and then this E major here, which is taking voices from the minor chords, so it doesn't really sound super major, but technically that would be in this key, because that would be the minor seventh, which would be a major chord. But basically what we're doing, so you can see, okay, so like this F sharp minor, for example, root note, fifth, a few octaves up, another root note. Here we're doing a minor third, which would just be in a basic F sharp minor chord, plus this ninth, which is like a very overly complicated way of saying one note down for the minor third. We have this fourth and this fifth here. You know, so even having that, like, the ninth and the fourth at the same time with the whole chord, That's what really gives you that like jungle sort of thing. If I get rid of those. Right, and then here. And you notice we're keeping a lot of the voices when we're moving up also. Even here. You know, like even that. You know, that's already been, we've already heard that G sharp up there, just in a different octave. So it's actually, you know, simpler than you would think, but it just fits really well over the bass line. For the sound on this one, so this is a technique to get these kinds of like, you know, big ambient moving chords like this. A lot of times you want to have multiple layers because even with just like one set of chords like this, let alone the whole 4 pads thing, because basically they're going to all come together and there's different movements happening on each one that create like that overall sound. So it creates something very rich. So, for the first one here, it's analog. So you hear that in the whole mix, right? That's just 2 saw waves with a low pass, with a bit of key tracking, a bit of an envelope, and also a little bit of an LFO. We've got a bit of vibrato and unison. Then for the second layer, you can hear it's this crazy operator pad that just adds a lot of like crazy high end, right? So what this is it's a saw wave, this saw 16 where it's not like the full harmonics, and then 2 sine waves doing FM, all at different octaves, a little bit detuned. We have a low pass filter, and then what's creating this with kind of like movement is basically we're got an LFO on the volume or the oscillator crossfade of oscillator A and C. And it's really slow, so it just moves in and out, and you get this crazy FM thing, which sits well with the other layers. And that's the other thing with the layering, too. Like, that's a really cool sound. But obviously, if you just had that on its own, it would be a little bit thin. And then the last layer is wavetable here. So you can see, wavetable can be really good for getting these more interesting textures. We're using this transistor square here. And then there's an LFO on the position of that wavetable as well as the filter frequency. And we actually have 2. We got one slow one that's like the slow morph. And then the second one's like this fast, like whoop, 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 whoop. So you're kind of getting multiple movements. And then we have a bunch of noise unison. And then when you put those all together, you get this full, very moving pad, right? So this has just got a bit of reverb. We have a low pass filter, which is moving the whole time, you can see just about, which really just like transitions this, right? If you're going to have an element like this, which plays all the way through the track, you definitely want to have a lot of this. Because this is what's going to make your track really dynamic, right? And then we just have a high pass to get this out of the way of the bass. Then we have pad number 2. Which I'm playing you these together so you can see how these are all starting to fit together. You can see this is just actually playing these chords which are 3 notes and then 2 notes, right? So here like we have this C sharp minor and then we're doing this G sharp minor with a minor 6th. You can hear how that creates that like jazzy kind of thing when it plays off of that other pad, like on its own. It's pretty cool, but it's about how all this stuff comes together and creates that atmosphere. So for the sound design on this one, it's pretty simple. It's just using more FM stuff to create kind of different textures. You know, FM pads are good because you can get a lot of stuff that you wouldn't get if you just use like a basic saw wave. This one's just literally some sine waves at the same octave with a low pass filter and a little bit of an LFO on the pitch of everything as well, so you get kind of like a warble. But you can see the low pass has a lot of movement. to make this very dynamic. Then we have this granular pad. So it's playing this MIDI, so it's playing C and G, but I have it tuned so that C is really F sharp minor, right? And then when we play that with the other pads, you can hear having that old school like sample pad, even if like sometimes when you solo them, it might even clash a little bit, like kind of minorly, like those aren't perfect together, but when you hear it in the whole track, having that one that's a sample, and particularly this method of sampling where it's a granular synth, right? So you can get the spray turned up, so you're playing the sample, and it's playing all different parts from the sample. Like jumping around like that. It's going to create something really nice over top of those other pads. Like if I play it with the other two that I've already shown you. It all just fits together really nice. And then we got a high pass, low pass, which this one has a lot of movement on the low pass, right? So this really keeps this going throughout the track. And also it kind of can make it so like, okay, this part, it's still here, but it's really subdued. So it's not going to be the same as over here, even if it's playing the whole time. Then the last pad we have here is this analog. So these are like these long held out chords, and all this is playing is a C sharp minor and then an F sharp minor 7. The C sharp minor also has a minor 6th on there instead of a 5th, but basically you can just hear it's just more stuff coming together to create that big like jungle-y sort of atmosphere, right? And so for the sound on this one, it's 2 saw waves detuned a bit, and I've actually got them -5 on the semitones. We've got a low pass filter which moves all throughout the track, right, to keep it, you know, kind of fresh and exciting. We just have a bit of echo, a bit of reverb. I have this saturator on here, and then a high pass, and that is it for all of the ambient layers. So you can see it's just a few different things playing like pretty simple chords, save for the first one, and then they all come together to create that big wash of ambience. Then we have the 303. So I hear these in a lot of these tracks, and I want to show you how to do it, because when you're at a faster tempo like this, you need to do a few things. First of all, the 303 at this tempo is really going to sound best if you just stick to one note across different octaves. Like, if you start trying to go super melodic with this, I'll show you. Like, these are all going to be in the key. But see how you don't quite get that as well as if it's literally just like. So keep it really simple, you know, keep the rhythm really simple as well. And also one note will fit well because it'll kind of like, yeah, it'll go over all of those chords a lot better, I think. Now for the actual sound, it's made with operator. It's a saw wave with kind of like a short envelope like that. There's a bandpass filter, which has a little bit of an envelope. That's the secret. You don't want that much envelope and a long decay. I've got this frequency to key turned down a little bit. Usually it's at like 100 by default, which as you can hear, you don't want. Turn that down a little bit. You get the resonance turned up. A bit of sine shaper. This LFO moving the filter around. And then really just an amp to distort it. And that's it. Another thing with the 303 at these like faster tempos, you don't want a whole lot of effects on it, like delay and reverb and stuff, because it's going to get pretty messy. And then we have the drums, which are kind of like different things in different parts of the track, but I want to show you everything that's going on here. So when you hear a track like this, you probably think, you know, okay, get an MM break, get some different drum breaks, chop them up, and you should be good, right? Well, when I really started studying these tracks and going into them, I realized there's actually a few different drum grooves throughout the track. So like if you look in this second kind of big drop over here, it's this. It sounds crazy on its own, but that's literally like how messed up you want it to be. And all that is it's this drum break. And then we have a kick and snare. Kind of filling that in, right? Those are just cut from other breaks. And then we have an amen chopped up to match it. Now, all of this sounds crazy because on the group, it's going through a lot of saturation that's just being blended in there. And that's how you get that big, blown out Sewerslvt sort of break. And it sounds crazy on its own, but I promise you, if you try to do what sounds like tamer or more careful or more like quote unquote like audio engineer friendly, you know, you're not going to get quite that same level. Like this, I went back and forth, and this is how crunchy you want it to be. Now, there's a low pass filter, which just brings that kind of in and out, and also for here. Like over here, it's just this break. There's a high pass too, which comes in over here. And then we just have a high end boost. So that's one of the drum grooves, right? But then if you look like over here, for example, there's this. Where it's a similar idea, right? It's like some different breaks. We have a kick and snare under them as well. We got some hi-hats on top too. Right, and then here's the breaks. But yeah, it's a totally different groove in this other part of the track. Even here, when this comes in from that other groove, it's still like its own thing, right? So that's what you want to keep in mind. I think to really keep these arrangements exciting, you need a few different drum grooves that are similar, you know, the same breakbeat ideas, but it's going to be like very different. Because otherwise, if you just copy and paste this over to here, it's going to be kind of like, well, why even have that part if you've already heard that, right? Down here, there's this little... There's just two breakbeats kind of chosen well to fit together that will complement each other. We've got this little drum groove. Right, there's this high pass, a little bit of reverb since it's more of a transitional. And then a low pass filter to bring it in and out. And that's all the drums. But again, it's not that hard. It's really just like having a few throughout the track. And then we have the effects, which are pretty simple. So we got this little drum rack here, which has a bunch of effects, but I only ended up using 2 of them. That just comes in here and there, you know, to add a little bit of nice background and keep the track exciting, especially in the outro. I noticed this is important. Even if it is low pass, you can see there's a bit of filtering, moving that around. We have this little vocal stab, which comes in a lot of these chill parts, right? And that's just going through a bit of delay, high pass, and then some reverb. And then the last thing that I think is really important is we have a bit of noise. So if I play you this part, you can really hear it. You hear how, like, as part of the atmosphere, there's like this sizzling noise. And I was listening, and a lot of people are probably wondering how to get that. They're probably thinking, oh, well, maybe it's in the pad. No, I actually believe you need to add a layer of white noise, which is what this is. It's just white noise with a high pass filter. And then you want to reverb it a lot to kind of smooth it out and make it not so just like. And then also, there's an LFO on the volume that's really slow, so it kind of comes in and out. That's the other thing I noticed. But if you add that, it adds that last little part, especially to the ambience, that will just bring it all to life. And yeah, so that's gonna be it for this one, guys. I hope you enjoyed. As always, make sure to like this video as well as subscribe, and let me know what you think of this video in the comments. Like I said in the beginning, you can get this full project file, samples, MIDI, presets, the entire template. Everything is available at the top of the description on my website. Definitely go grab that. You know, it's a really accessible template. There's nothing else like this on the market for this style, and definitely not that sounds this good. Thank you so much for the support, everybody. Enjoy, and I'll see you tomorrow with another video.